So this is one of the good things to see. This is Spring Meadow Nursery. We've got about 35 acres of production greenhouses and another, I don't know, hundreds plus acres of stock plants. And this is what we do. We do liners. The largest size plant that we produce is a quart. So I do not intend to ever sell you plants directly to put in a landscape. I want you to buy finished plants, larger size plants. I think everyone will be much happier with that. Now, we select all the plants for proven winners, and we have close to 300 varieties in our line. But I don't talk about all of them to landscapers. They're all good plants, but landscapers often have a little bit different set of criteria for plants than a homeowner might. I don't think anyone is going to do a mass planting of clematis. You can, I guess, it'd be kind of cool, but more likely you're looking for stuff that you could put in big quantities, that's going to be a reliable grower in a lot of different sites. And so those are some of the criteria we look for. And we also listen to what the landscape market is telling us. Now, the landscape architects were surveyed a couple years ago, and these are some of the things they said were important. Native plants, native drought-tolerant plants, low-maintenance landscapes, rain gardens. And these are all good things that I think I can help with plant-wise. Some of the other things they wanted, like permeable paving and fire pits, also sound cool, but I can't help with that. But we are looking for plants that meet these criteria. But I did see something missing off of the landscape architects list, and that's deer. Because that's something that I hear a lot of. People want deer-resistant plants. There's no such thing as a deer-proof plant. There are plants that are less appealing than others. And if you are looking for a good reference to find out the relative deer resistance of a plant, I recommend checking out the Rutgers University website. They have an excellent website where they rate plants based on their deer resistance. And that's a really good reference. And that's what I refer to when I am deciding whether or not to put a plant on the deer resistant list, is what Rutgers has. They have a huge deer problem in New Jersey, so I do trust their judgment there. So that's another thing. When I talk about plants, I try and talk about plants that are deer resistant. The average house has gotten bigger. The yards have gotten smaller. We're seeing more and more demand for more compact plants that fit better into those residential landscapes. So those are things that I look for. And shade. Shade trees are great, but finding plants that grow under shade trees can sometimes be a bit of a challenge. So again, looking for some plants that will tolerate some shade. Okay, so it can do all that. It's native and it's deer resistant and it's shade tolerant and it doesn't get too big. That's a pretty tall list of plants, of characteristics for a plant. And it's hard to find plants that will do all of those things. But this is one of them. This is Kodiak Deer Villa. Deer Villa is an awesome plant. It is durable. It is one of the few plants that will grow in dry shade. Native plant, pollinators love it. It's just tough as nails. The problem with Deer Villa has been that it's not super showy. It's not a real flashy plant. So we wanted to breed in a little bit more color into Deer Villa, and I think we've been quite successful with that with the Kodiak series. We have black, orange, and red. So this is, you can't really see this very well in this tent, but black has very dark purple foliage in the spring, and then again in the fall. Kodiak orange, I think, might be my favorite of the three. It has very nice orange new growth and these yellow flowers that pollinators really like. Again, this is a great plant if you've got a tough site, you're struggling to find something that will grow there. This plant probably will grow there, including, as I said, dry shade. I will caution you though, as with most plants, the deeper into shade you go, the less colorful it is. You probably won't see the brilliant color if the plant is in deep shade, but it will grow quite happily. And this is it's fall color, nice bright orange. So I think this is a good alternative to burning bush. Burning bush is kind of a problem plant in some areas, so having an alternative to that I think is really valuable. Then I've got a boxwood, and it's a boxwood. It looks like a boxwood and acts like a boxwood. It's great, deer resistant, shade tolerant. Sprinter though, we selected because it's faster growing. That's how it got its name. So this is something that may not be immediately obvious to you when you're in the nursery and you're looking at the different boxwood. It doesn't shout out to you that it is faster growing, but it is, and that's good for you, and it's good for the growers that supply you. They can ramp up their production of this plant. When you put it in the landscape, it's going to fill in more quickly. Boxwood is a great plant, but our growers are having some struggles with boxwood. Boxwood blight is a bit of a challenge for some folks. So having a plant that can be produced quickly and uniformly as a good container plant is quite valuable. If you want to totally avoid the boxwood issue, we've got a new Ilex glabra. This is gembox, and it looks and acts like a boxwood. Some of the older glabras would get kind of leggy at the bottom, be bare, not always very attractive. Gembox we selected because it's a nice tight little mound. You can prune it into a meatball or whatever your client wants. It's a native plant, so if you have someone who's wanting to have more of a native garden, this works. And it's a good plant. We're very happy to have it because, as I said, boxwood blight is a problem in some areas. So this gives people another choice. Sugar Shack is a cephalanthus. This is our native button bush. Fun plant. You've got this really crazy flower. This plant grows in bogs alongside ponds. It likes wet to moist soil. So this is a good choice if you have an area that gets a little bit soggy, someone who wants more of a natural look. It's not a plant for someone who wants a very formal manicured garden. It's just not. But a great plant for rain gardens, and pollinators really, really like these crazy flowers. And in the fall, it gets these pretty red fruit. The species gets green fruit, but Sugar Shack gets the red fruit, and Sugar Shack is more compact than the species, so it's a little better fit for a lot of situations. And then Clethra, another great native plant. Pollinators love it. You have these wonderful fragrant flowers. Just an awesome plant. Will grow well in some sort of soggy situations. Sugartina crystallina is a compact or dwarf version of Clethra. And it's just a handsome little plant. It will take shade. And again, most plants, the further into shade you go, the less flowering you will have. But it will grow quite happily and it will flower, but you'll get more flowers as it has more sunlight. So that's kind of hard, that's hard to resist, I think. Okay, winterberry. I'm in Michigan, we get winter. It's long and it's cold and it's kind of dreary. So winter interest for us is, we're pretty serious about it because you need something to look at other than drifts of snow. And you guys get winter too. I don't think it's quite as soul deadening as the ones we have in Michigan, but you do get winter. So having something to look at is important, and winterberry is a great choice for that, but the traditional winterberries get really big. They can be a little ungainly for a lot of landscapes. I speak from experience because I have some in my yard that my husband planted like 15 years ago, and I hate them. I hate them so much. I made him get out his chainsaw and cut a bunch of other stuff down that he planted. He asked me to give the winterberry another chance, another winter, to see if they make us happy. Berry poppins is a dwarf winterberry. If he had planted this 15 years ago, I would not be complaining about it because it stays nice and small, tight, well behaved. Great little plant for landscaping. As with all holly though, remember, you need boys and you need girls. So Berry Poppins is a lady and her consort is Mr. Poppins. So remember to plant both. You can plant up to 10 female hollies with 1 male holly and get good coverage for fruiting. All That Glitters and All That Glows, these are selections of Viburnum dentatum, which is a really tough customer, great viburnum, very adaptable, very durable. You do need 2 varieties of Viburnum dentatum to get good berry set. So that's why we have All That Glitters and All That Glows. If you lined them up, I couldn't tell them apart. They look the same. And that's the idea, that you could have 2 of these cultivars in a planting and it looks uniform, but you do get that cross-pollination, so you have that nice berry set. And we selected them. They have a nice compact habit. I wouldn't call it dwarf, but it is more manageable than some of the traditional Viburnum dentatums, which can get kind of big. And they're very, very shiny leaves. These glossy leaves really catch the light and are beautiful. This is a really nice plant in an area that maybe has some dappled shade. You get a little bit of sunlight to make those leaves pop. Beautiful, beautiful plants. So you get the white flowers in the spring and you get these pretty blue berries in the fall. And they're just great plants. I will caution you with all Viburnum dentatum, make sure you like where you're putting it before you put it in, because digging these guys up is a real pain. So think. There they are. You can see nice little habits, well-behaved plants. Now, Brandywine is a selection of Viburnum nudum. Wonderful plant, very elegant, glossy foliage, and this amazing berry display in the fall. This is a really gorgeous, gorgeous plant. Now, Viburnum nudum, like other viburnums, traditionally you do need 2 varieties to get good berry set, but we are seeing good fruit set on Brandywine without a pollinator nearby. So if you have a situation where someone only has room for 1 viburnum, I would suggest this. They will get berry set on it. I think you'll get more berry set if you plant it near another selection of Viburnum nudum. Winterthur would be probably the best choice, but you will get a good display with this without a pollinator nearby. Beautiful plant, and you get this nice fall color too. It's just a lovely plant, really attractive. Okay, Yuki cherry blossom. This is a pink Deutzia nico. Deutzia, great plant, very deer resistant. Low growing, tidy little mound, stays where you put it, doesn't talk back, flowers in the spring, just beautiful, beautiful little plant. This is a plant I see a lot in areas with heavy deer pressure because they just don't really like it that much. So this is a great choice if you're using Deutzia nico and you want a different color. Yuki cherry blossom is great. You get that pink color. You can see it's a nice little mound, pretty plant. And it gets good fall color, this purple fall color. So you get the great show in the spring, nice show in the fall. Honestly, in summer, it's not doing much, but it's not causing you problems, and I like that. If you want the traditional white flowers, this is Deutzia Yuki Snowflake, and it's an amped up version of Deutzia nico. It's just covered with the white flowers in the spring. Really showy. You put this next to nico, this will blow you away. Okay, Aronia. Aronia is an interesting plant. We have some new Aronia melanocarpa. So most Aronia breeding has traditionally been more towards the fruit. It is one of the, it's a good choice for harsh climates where they need fruit production. And a lot of the breeding actually was done behind the Iron Curtain in Soviet Russia because they didn't have access to other fruit that had vitamin C. So they started to cultivate Aronia. It would grow in Russia. So a lot of the breeding was geared towards that, fruit production. I've got a customer in Iowa who's really into Aronia. He makes wine and jelly, and he's just going to town on Aronia. Well, that's fine and good, but Aronia can get kind of big and not always best suited for an ornamental application. So we were really excited to find someone doing some breeding to make Aronia better suited for landscaping. Because Aronia is very hardy, it is very durable. Deer aren't crazy about it. I wouldn't say it's as deer resistant as the Deutzia, but they're not really crazy about it. And you get, this is hedger, it's about maybe like that big. It's just a durable plant. They grow it out in the plains, no problem. You get these pretty white flowers in the spring. This is low scape mound, which is even smaller. So this is a nice little plant. I think you could use it as you would maybe grow low sumac, but it's a little flashier. Again, these pretty white flowers. And this is Viking. This is one of the traditional varieties. And this is low scape mound. And this is Megan. She's our plant breeder, and she's tiny. She's like this tall and this wide. So that's your scale to show you how big that's going to get. You get really nice fall color. Just beautiful little plant to line out, have a mass planting of. You will get fruit on low scape mound, but for some reason low scape hedger does not berry. It's purely ornamental. The fruit production on mound, though, you're not going to be making wine out of it, but you will probably make some of your bird friends happy. They'll enjoy it. You could eat it too if you wanted to.
What was the size of the mound?
The mound, about like that, maybe 2-3 foot. Same around. They're just nice, tidy little plants. Okay, oak leaf hydrangeas. Not deer resistant, but they're pretty nice plants. The problem with oak leaf hydrangeas has been they're not great plants for growing in containers. The best oak leaf hydrangeas have traditionally been grown in the field and sold B&B. So that's great. You want a good looking plant, but let's face it, most nursery production now has gone to containers. So we selected the Gatsby oak leaf hydrangeas because they're excellent plants. They're the best oak leaves that I've seen in container production. So, you know, that's great. I know I don't want to haul a B&B oak leaf hydrangea around, and probably you don't either. Gatsby Gal is my favorite of the group. It's a little bit more compact. It's not a dwarf. It's a little more compact, a little more manageable size. Oak leaf hydrangea is a big scale plant. You know, if you try and cram it into a space that's too small, I just don't think it ever quite looks right. It's got big leaves, big flowers, but Gatsby Gal is a little better fit for a lot of smaller landscapes. And as you can see, the flowers are just gorgeous. Another hydrangea. Again, not deer resistant, but I'm talking about it because people always ask about hydrangeas. We have a feedback site where consumers can write in their questions about their plants, and right after where can I find whatever the plant might be, the second question we get is invariably something about hydrangeas. Let's Dance Blue Jangles is a reblooming hydrangea, Hydrangea macrophylla. The reblooming hydrangeas have just added a whole new level of questions about hydrangeas. So in your folders there is a flyer about hydrangeas that answers a lot of questions, but I'm going to kind of go through some of them now because I've got you here. So Let's Dance Blue Jangles is a reblooming hydrangea. It is very compact and it is very floriferous. If you have grown older varieties of reblooming hydrangeas and been less than happy with their performance, I encourage you to look at the later breeding of it, because obviously I want you to buy my plants, but I'm going to speak candidly that all of the plant breeders have been working on reblooming hydrangeas, and the newest generation of reblooming hydrangeas is so much better than the originals. We've all been breeding for better reblooming earlier in the season, for better flower color, for more abundant flowering. So there has been a huge, huge improvement. Let's Dance Blue Jangles, I think would be my favorite. because it is a nice size, very compact, has an excellent blue color. It's just a really handsome plant, good disease resistance on the foliage. But rebloomers, here's some things to know. They flower on old wood, like regular hydrangea macrophylla, and then they flower on new wood. So, if you get a really cold winter, or someone prunes them at the wrong time, you get a second chance at flowers. They're not any hardier than regular hydrangea macrophylla. If you are in an area where your hydrangea macrophylla are being damaged over winter or perhaps by a spring freeze, your rebloomers will also struggle. However, your rebloomers give you a second chance at flowering. And that's why they're a great choice, especially I know in Kentucky, it can kind of come and go, right? I mean, there's some years things are good, some years they're not. You're kind of in that borderline of hydrangeas having problems. So I would say for you, rebloomers are probably a really good choice. Just keep in mind, if it's a site where the Nicos have struggled every year, your rebloomers are probably going to be growing, producing flowers on new wood as well. Excuse me. Okay, and then there's flower color. Soil affects the flower color of hydrangea macrophylla and hydrangea serrata. It does not affect the flower color of paniculatas, of oak leaves, of arborescens. These are the two species that are affected, that the flower color will change. pH plays a role in it, but it's really about the aluminum that's in the soil. So if your hydrangeas are not turning blue, you want to get a soil test before you start monkeying with the soil, because you can acidify the soil, you know, just really make it as acid as you can. If there's no aluminum in the soil, those flowers are not going to turn blue. So we do recommend a soil test. And then if you want them to turn blue, you need to have aluminum, and it has to be a low pH so the aluminum is available to the plant. And don't put weird things in the soil. You know, people are like, oh, I'm going to put rusty nails in the soil, which is such a bad idea for so many reasons. You know, don't put rusty nails in the soil, or pennies, or people ask if they can just like crumple up aluminum foil and put it. No. Go to the store and buy aluminum sulfate, because that will work. Just don't follow the home remedies. You'll end up with tetanus or something like that. So again, aluminum in the soil and low pH. Test your soil before treating it. That's probably good advice for, you know, any situation. Don't just start throwing stuff in there willy-nilly. It can take a while for flowers to change. You may go to the nursery and you see a beautiful hydrangea plant and the tag has a blue flower, but the plant has a pink flower. What's going on? The soil that is used by nursery growers by default leads to pink hydrangeas. Unless the nursery grower has actively treated the soil to produce blue flowers, the flowers you see are probably going to be pink. Don't worry about it. That's just what the growing mix is like. You put it in the ground, and again, you know, see what you're dealing with, but you're probably going to have to treat the plant in the ground to get the blue color. And it can take a while for this to take effect. So I'm sorry, your client is probably not going to see blue flowers that year. They'll see it drift into purple. You have to keep going. You get blue flowers the next year. If you want blue flowers immediately, talk to your grower and see if they have some that they have been treating to have blue flowers. And that way you'll get it right away. And some varieties lean more to blue than others. All hydrangea macrophylla and hydrangea serrata, the flowers will change color depending on soil, but some have better blues than others and some have better pinks than others. So it's worth reading the label to see, you know, what that particular variety is going to do. Blue Jangles, excellent blue, and that seems to be what people want a lot of the time, so that would be my recommendation. But then we have Let's Dance Rave. You can get it to be blue, but you gotta work pretty hard at it. It, though, does a really nice violet. And we hesitated to introduce this plant because we're always being told that people don't want blurple hydrangeas. But this violet was so gorgeous. We're like, you know, let's introduce it because there might be people who want it. So Let's Dance Rave, I would say, is a good choice for someone who wants a purple color. It also has a dynamite pink. This is Paraplu. This is a plant. Again, I don't think I've ever seen this turn blue, but it's a gorgeous pink. So read the label. Make sure you get one that's right for what your client wants. And if you just don't want to deal with that at all, we can do Hydrangea paniculata, because you know what? They don't care about the soil. What you see is what you get. This is Bobo. This is the most dwarf Hydrangea paniculata. So about 3 foot by 3 foot, covered with these white flowers in summer. They bloom on new wood, so you don't have to worry about a cold winter, or if someone prunes it at the wrong time. You just give it a little trim in late winter. It's good to go. Bobo is very popular because it has this nice dwarf habit. You can grow it in a patio container, and here you could certainly overwinter it above ground. You know, you put it in a patio container, leave it out on the patio, be fine over winter. I do caution people though, if you're overwintering things in a container, make sure they don't dry out. It's not always cold that kills plants like that above ground during the winter. It's that they freeze dry. People forget that they may be dormant, but those roots do still need some moisture. So if you are not getting regular precipitation, you want to make sure that the plant is getting some water over winter. So Bobo, great plant. Turns pink in the fall, and this is true of most Hydrangea paniculatas. They will open white or perhaps green, and then the flowers will age to pink. You're not going to see blue. It's just not going to happen. But that's okay. Firelight is a bigger plant. We selected this because it has excellent color in late summer, early fall. It is the reddest we've seen on a Hydrangea paniculata. So a lot of Hydrangea paniculata breeding has been towards the dwarf plants, but there is still a call for full-size plants in a lot of cases, and we wanted better color. So that's where we went with Firelight. Is deep pink, kind of a pomegranate red, very showy plant. And the full-size plants also make great trees. And I think you might start to see some Firelight trees on the market next year, maybe. It takes a little while for them to limb them up and make trees, but this is a dynamite plant. Now, the Hydrangea paniculatas will grow quite happily in partial shade. The further north you get, the more sun they want to have the great flower color. This plant was being grown in full sun. I think here you're probably far enough south that they'll still color up pretty nicely in partial shade. But again, it's a rule of thumb. The more shade plants get, the fewer flowers you get, and typically the color is not as intense. So, you know, you need to, I trust you, you're professionals, you'll know. But if you have a plant that's not coloring like you want, it could be it's not getting enough sunlight. So yes, lots of paniculatas to choose from. I believe this chart is in the catalog I handed out. So there's different ranges of sizes and colors. We're pushing the pinks and purples as far as we can. Again, there's no blue. In addition to breeding for good color, we're also looking to have them bloom earlier and earlier. So right now, quickfire is the standard. That's the earliest to bloom. I'm hoping in a few years we have something that blooms even earlier than quickfire. So keep your eyes out. You know, we'll see what happens. People ask, why are you introducing all these paniculatas? I'm like, plant breeders like to see what they can do, and they're going to see how early they can get a paniculata to bloom. Another good group of plants for people who don't want to worry about soil pH are the Hydrangea arborescens. These are native hydrangeas, not deer resistant, but they are native. They are durable. They will take full sun They'll tolerate some drought once they're established. They're just really, really tough little plants. This is Invincibelle Wee White. It's a dwarf Annabelle. You probably already know how you would use a dwarf Annabelle. It's a great little plant. It reblooms, beautiful white flowers. I'm very fond of this plant. One of its sister plants is Invincibelle Mini Mauvette. Same thing, dwarf plant, but you have more of purplish pink coloration, another strong rebloomer. And these are nice, tidy little plants that fit very well into a lot of situations. And Mini Mauvette, the flowers age beautifully. You get this green and pink, gorgeous plants. And then Invincibelle Limetta, which is a lime green, again, a little dwarf plant. Hydrangea arborescens, there's no blue happening. We can do green and we can do pink, and we're pushing into purple and red as far as we can, but there's no blue, it's not happening. They also bloom on new wood, great plants. So I think that's Limetta again. And here's a chart showing the range. You can see we've got some smaller ones and some bigger ones. I'm just really fond of hydrangea arborescens because they are so simple. They do their job and they don't talk back, and it's great. And this is the flyer that I put in your folder. So check this out. If you want more copies of it to give to your staff members or your crew, let me know. I'm happy to send them. Okay, so those were plants that would take some shade. Now I'm going to talk about plants that really do need sun. And there's some awesome ones. One of them is Buddleia. It is deer resistant. There's been a lot of interesting breeding with Buddleia. Pugsters are the newest ones. They're dwarf and they're reblooming. And these are sturdy, sturdy little plants. And they produce a lot of flowers. And the flowers are big. Great growers, very fragrant. They're different from some of the other dwarf varieties on the market in that the stems are thicker. And this is important because those thicker stems will help it overwinter better. Buddleia in a lot of areas is really a dieback shrub. It's a perennial. But the thicker stems will come through winter better. And then the plant gets going a little bit earlier in the spring because it doesn't have to grow back from the roots. So these are gorgeous plants. Our growers have been really happy with them. So huge flowers. Hypericum, great deer resistant plant. Covered with these beautiful yellow flowers in the summer, and it pretty much goes all summer long. And pollinators love those flowers. They're very cheery. It will take drier conditions. In fact, it likes drier conditions. Full sun, kind of poor to dry soil. And nice tidy little mounds. This is Blues Festival, which has a nice little kind of meatball shape and blue-green foliage. So that's a nice look. And I mean, those flowers are really, really appealing. Nice plant. Ginger wine. This is a Physocarpus. Physocarpus is a great plant. It wants full sun and it wants good air circulation. If you put Physocarpus somewhere where it's not getting good air circulation, you're going to have powdery mildew. So try not to do that. That said, sometimes it happens. So then the coppery colored Physocarpus, for some reason, are more prone to powdery mildew than the other colors. Ginger wine, it looks a lot like Coppertina. We introduced it because it has better mildew resistance than Coppertina. I think it's going to replace Coppertina in the market. And this is it's kind of like the boxwood, you know, where you walk up to it and you're like, why did they introduce it? It doesn't look any different. Yeah, it might not look different, but it's going to perform better because it doesn't get the powdery mildew that other coppery colored ones can get. Physocarpus is a great plant if you have more of an exposed site. I have it planted in my yard. I'm surrounded by fields. It's windy. I've killed all kinds of really nice plants because they can't take the exposure. Physocarpus loves those conditions, and that's where I like to see it planted. But it's very humid here. Get the most mildew-resistant varieties you can. Ginger wine. Azuri Blue Satin. This is a Rose of Sharon. Another one you look at, it's a blue Rose of Sharon. What's so great about that? Well, it does have exceptionally nice flowers for a Rose of Sharon. It's sterile. It does not set seed. Another one of my great gardening regrets is the bluebird hibiscus that's in my backyard. And every year I am pulling up seedlings from that thing. I wish I had planted this instead, only it didn't exist when I planted it. So this is a great, great plant. Hibiscus syriacus will take clay soils, they will take drought, they will take heat. They are going to ask you for full sun. And this one does all that and does not produce these seedlings that will irritate you and your clients forever. So this is a great plant. We are introducing more and more sterile hibiscus. We just think it's important to have as, looking for sterile plants. Pearl Glam is a calicarpa. Calicarpa is a great plant, but it doesn't get a lot of attention at retail because it doesn't really do its thing until about now. But as a landscape plant, it is so great. It's deer resistant, very showy in the fall. I mean, look at that. That's just beautiful. So Pearl Glam was selected for its excellent berry set and also because it has this nice purple foliage. So it's more interesting throughout the season. So really nice plant. Oh, forsythia. Yeah, we all know what forsythia do because that's all they do. They do one thing and they do it for a week, maybe two. Every spring I'm reminded of how many forsythia there are in the landscape, and there's a lot. A lot of good qualities, deer resistant, tough, great spring color that we need after a gloomy winter. The problem is then it sits there for the other 50 weeks of the year doing absolutely nothing. So what do you do about that? Because people want forsythia and I want forsythia. You plant the best forsythia you can find, the best display, and the show-offs do that. They go from base to tip. Nice full display of flowers. The other thing you do is you try and plant one that's small because that way it is not taking up a lot of square footage in a yard. So people get their forsythia fix, they get those yellow flowers, but it's a manageable size, so then you can go on and you can plant stuff that looks good the rest of the year. So that's why we introduced the show-offs. There's 3 sizes. You can pick the one that's right for you. Great, great plants. And again, I like to make people happy. I like to give them forsythia flowers. I just don't want them to be regretting that giant plant that's sitting there doing nothing most of the year. Spirea. These are workhorses. You know, you put them in, the deer aren't going to bother them. There's one in pretty much any color you can think of. And the breeding has been to get more and better color in Spirea. So pick a color. We probably have a Spirea for you. But one I really like is Double Play Candy Corn. It has this vibrant yellow color and orange new growth. Nice, tidy little mound. And this is it in spring. It is fire engine red. It is really something to see. And it's hard for me to admit that. You know, I work for Spring Meadow Nursery. We are plant snobs. Like, we're not going to put a Spirea in our yard, you know. We got better stuff to do. When this thing leaves out in the spring, all of the plant snobs are around it going, I can't believe this Spirea. This is amazing. This is the best thing. So it's a humbling plant for us at Spring Meadow Nursery. And I just love it. That red color is just great. Now, Double Play Blue Kazoo is, I think, my favorite Spirea, but it is just night and day different. It's a little bit bigger. The leaves are a little bit bigger, a little bit looser habit. But the color is so gorgeous. Blue-green foliage with some hints of red, and then it'll get redder in the fall. It is as classy a Spirea as you are going to find. It gets these white flowers. So this is a good choice if you have a client who wants a more restrained palette, but they are, you know, they need something that's pretty durable and deer resistant. I love this plant. It's the only thing is it's a little bit bigger than some of the other Spirea, but beautiful. That blue-green foliage is just stunning. Weigela. Hydrangeas are kind of an old-fashioned plant. They do their thing in spring, and then they, kind of like forsythia, they just kind of sit there. So we were excited to get reblooming hydrangeas. The sonic blooms have the best rebloom of any hydrangeas that we've seen. 3 different colors to choose from. I would say the pink is probably the most popular. Now the rebloom is excellent. It's not going to be as heavy as the spring bloom, but it's still pretty impressive. So this is a good plant. You know, again, it's going to give you a little more bang for your buck in terms of color than older hydrangeas varieties. If you want to avoid the issue of flowering, reblooming completely, I recommend spilled wine, because it does have a nice flower display in the spring, but it has dark purple foliage. This is a compact form of wine and roses. So about like this, about like that. It tends to be wider than it is tall. Exceptional dark foliage and the hot pink flowers. Beautiful mass planting, and fits better into a lot of situations than wine and roses. I mean, wine and roses is a great plant, but it can get kind of big. So this often fits in better, and our growers and landscapers I talk to are really, really liking spilled wine. A lot of them are using this now instead of wine and roses. They just find it's a better choice for a lot of their jobs. So beautiful plant. Okay, this is Sunjoy Mini Maroon. It looks like Crimson Pygmy Barberry, but it is sterile. We're very excited to have this. Barberry is a plant that is restricted in a lot of areas because they do seed, and I'm so happy to have this introduction. I like to hike. I hate going back into the woods on a hiking trail and finding barberry seedlings growing. It makes me crazy. So I'm really excited that we have this alternative to have something that's not going to set seed. So looks like Crimson Pygmy, but it is worth paying for this because it's not going to set seed. And in some areas, I think barberry are actually prohibited because they set seed. We're working to get this as an exemption because it's sterile. So, okay, I have product sheets for all of our plants. If you would like these, I have flash drives with those on them. See me afterwards, I'll be happy to give you one. These product sheets are useful. People will give them to the members of their crew to educate them about the plants, or to their client after the fact. You know, people maybe want like a scrapbook of what you've done before or after, what's in their yard. These are nice. You can just print them off. You're good to go. While I have you, I'm going to promote APLD. This is the Association of Professional Landscape Designers. Really fun group. They do a tour every year, and next year is going to be in Toronto. It's going to be, I think, almost exactly a year from now. So Ontario in September is really, really nice. If you can make this event, I encourage you to do so. It's a nice event. You'll get to see some gardens that you wouldn't see otherwise. And just as importantly, you get to talk to other professionals from all over North America. And you could talk shop. Nice group of people. If you can make it, please try to. And if you like road trips, come see me. I'm in Michigan. I already showed you where. You can look at some really awesome gardens like this. And what else do we have? Beaches. We have really great beaches, and they're freshwater, so there's no salt, there's no sharks. It's really, really nice. If you come in summer, and you want to come in summer, honestly, don't come in winter. You're not going to be happy. But if you come in summer, we have blueberries. You can go blueberry picking. And we have beer. We're Beer City, USA. And I have beer maps with me. So if you like plants, and you like beaches, and you like blueberries, and you like beer, I have got the place for you to go. So, any questions?